Hi, my name is Jared Rogelstat, and I have a death sentence, but I'm going to share my story before I pass to expose this messed up healthcare system. I got sick at a very young age, and it was GI issues my entire life until earlier this year. Um,
For those of you who don't know, GI is gastrointestinal.
and now I'm terminal. I'm 23 years old. Um, I'm terminal due to multiple health conditions, including antibiotic resistant bacteria and infections. My insurance would not cover treatment for my conditions, so they became terminal. Um,
By the way, some of these conditions are common with a failed gender affirmation surgery. Because what they do is they use your small intestines to try to mimic a female genitalia, and it will cause the feces will eventually seep into your bloodstream, causing sepsis, and then the infection you would subsequently perish from. It's just a part of your body trying to naturally heal after you removing the male member, and there's a gaping hole there, the intestines. It's not a long term strategy. Now he's saying he's been having these issues since he was young, but just so you know, for the kids that they manipulate into taking these surgeries, this is also their path. His was from something else, but it's also gastrointestinal issues, sepsis, infections, and bacterial and bacteria resistant, antibiotic resistant types of bacteria that comes along with it as well. That's the part they don't tell you about when they're trying to convince you to go do it when you're in these schools and they're trying to tell you what you do with your kids. They don't mention this part of it.
I got tired of being tied to tubes and everything, so I decided to completely withdraw care and stop all curative measures. I'm 23 years old, and I'm dying because of insurance. Not only that,
This isn't the first time I've heard something like this. I remember I was in high school um, in Cerritos back in California. And, my great grandmother, we used to stop to get lunch on the way home. And we stopped at Wiener Schnitzel, and Wiener Schnitzel was good. And we got home, and I turned on the television, and there's a huge, all the news stations are watching this man on a bridge. I believe he had HIV, and he had a huge sign, and they had to stop traffic. He had a huge sign on top of his car, and it said, HMOs are in it for the money. Apparently, his story was the HMOs that was basically providing his healthcare coverage. They had pretty much dropped him from his insurance, and he was no longer receiving the medical care that he would need to stay alive. And his condition was also terminal. He was in pain, and I believe he had his dog in the car with him, and he had like some homemade bombs. I guess he was gonna throw them at someone, but on accident, I believe one of the bombs had went off in the car, and he tried to get inside the car to save his dog, and everything just exploded on the freeway. But he was saying that the HMOs are in it for the money. Everyone says that, and you know what? This kind of reminds me of the trial that's going on right now for Maggiano. A lot of people hate our healthcare providers, they hate the healthcare CEOs, and that means that there's a problem. If everybody's barometers are going off the Richter scales when it comes to this subject and to the people that work in this industry, that means there is a problem. The problem, of course, it is greed, and also it's a system in itself. Monetizing healthcare is probably one of the worst things you can do. That's basically like monetizing politics. You're going to get corruption. How many doctors are out here poisoning patients so that they're going to have to come back for more treatment? How many doctors have went to prison because they falsely diagnosed somebody with a disease that they didn't really have, just to make kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies from prescribing the treatment? This is a rampant, huge problem, and there's not really much being done about it. But for us here in the United States to get to the point where we're now offering maids, medical assistance in dying, which is what they do in Canada. You know, in Canada, they euthanize you. In Canada, you will be euthanized. I was just reading, I did a story a couple months ago. There was a girl, she was in her 20s. She was only suffering from depression after a breakup. And they literally approved her for medical assistance in dying, and they put her to sleep like an animal that's being killed in a shelter because she was depressed. Now you give it a few months, she'll get over it. She'll meet someone else. She'll be able to live. But if you affirm everybody's wish to pass away when they're going through something, well, then you're going to be killing 1 million people every month. You can't do that. People go through things. People go through moods and people feel one way. I remember I went through a breakup one time that was so devastating to me. Even though I was in the wrong, I literally said, I want to die. I'm going to die without her. And look at me. I'm still living and I'm alive. I'm over it. But what if when I was going through that dark period of sadness and I said, I want to die, and somebody in a lab coat and with a doctor with a stethoscope walked up to me and said, hey there, maybe I can help you with your request. You really want to, I know this is depression. And I let these fucking people convince me to commit suicide. Then what about everything else I've accomplished in life? It would have never happened. It would have been wiped. You can't do that. And then this is America. You should be, if the treatment is reasonable, you're supposed to at least try to offer someone death because it's a cheaper option than helping keep them alive. Should be illegal. And I thought I thought it was, but apparently I'm wrong. This is not a Canadian thing anymore. See, in Canada, their medical system is socialist. So it's based off of taxes. It's free for everyone. So you can understand the constraints. Some people are waiting for months to see a doctor because, well, they're not paying. It's free healthcare. So you're on a system, a wait list, whatever. And sometimes you don't have enough time to see a doctor. And to start the treatment, it's going to be too late. So they offer people maids. They assist them in dying. But that is not the American way. Unless you live in California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Hawaii, Vermont, New Mexico, New Jersey, Maine, Montana, and DC. If you're in any of those jurisdictions, you can go to a hospital, speak to a doctor, and they will make the arrangements to put you to sleep. Literally, the World Economic Forum globalist depopulation agenda, just another aspect of it.
There's an option for the terminally ill in California where a doctor can prescribe you poison to drink and you die in about an hour or two. My insurance wouldn't cover treatment, but they cover that medication.
Can you fucking believe that? So they won't cover the treatment that can keep you alive, but they are more than happy to cover a cocktail that will kill you. But see, they won't be charged with poisoning you and they won't be charged with murder. But if someone else, I mean, the rules are becoming, the lines are too blurry. The waters are too muddy around this. How is assisting someone in dying not akin to murder or at least manslaughter or contributing to another person's death? The option to legally kill yourself, knowing that there are other treatments available, should not be on the table. But this has literally crept into our society. I remember hearing about this back in Canada when I used to live there. That was 2015. This is 2025, and it's now in, what is that, 11 states? 11 different places in the country where now you can go and they will euthanize you legally in a hospital. And I mean, like right now, it's because this man he's terminal and they don't want to pay for the medication, but eventually it'll be for any and every issue. You got a broken leg? How about we just, instead of putting a cast on there and charging you, $5,500, we could also just euthanize you for 1,500. They're going to start offering this. They're offering it already. And if they're offering for people that are just depressed in Canada, what about when they start offering it here? Think about it. You got a lot of gay, trans, binary. You got a lot of mentally ill, confused people in this country. Those are the people who are going to be the first ones that are going to be clinically diagnosed as depressed. Because remember, we're in the victimhood Olympics. So the more conditions you can name, the higher up you are in the ranks if you're a liberal or a Democrat in those circles. The more conditions, the more mental issues you claim to have, the higher up you become. But what if a really big part of affirming your mental condition is real is if you go through with the M.A.I.D.s, if you go through with medical assistance in dying, that might be the new fun, that might be the new fad, that might be the new rave. Everything that I'm watching happen all leads to one thing: less people. It's all leading to death. This everything, all these different agendas from different angles, it all leads to just more people dying.
And I will be going through with physician assisted death in a few weeks. In a legal and dignified way.
Says who? Who says it's dignified? And I mean, the law hasn't, I mean, we didn't vote on this. I mean, these laws seem like they were just pushed through in, well, these are all Democrat ran states. All of them are all blue states. So these laws were passed. All these states that I named are all states that are corrupt with mail-in ballots and fake. They use, a lot of them all have illegals that vote. So we don't even know who voted for this or how they got this passed, but they're legally now killing people where murder is legal. That's, I mean, how far in our society are we from basically just, I mean, I think we're already there. We already sacrifice children with abortions every day in these states. So that's the same that thing that the Aztecs used to do, and the Mayans literally kill kids on an altar and the blood would just flow down. Now we're just killing humans and adults because they have a problem that could be solved or it could be mitigated and they could extend their life. But over life, we're choosing death. That's my problem. All of this leads to more death. It doesn't lead to life. Even none of these agendas are leading to more people being present. All of these agendas leads to people being taken away. And these leftists, these maniacs that are out here talking about, oh, save the illegals, but you're literally in favor of medical assistance in dying and abortion. So you only care about certain life, but not other life. And that's an extreme conflict of interest and a magnitude of hypocrisy that I can't measure.
Let's fix this system so nobody else has to go through my pain.
You know, I was watching Scott Adams, and he was a few months ago discussing how he was going to schedule his own euthanasia because he has a terminal condition caused by the vaccine. And he's still alive, actually. And he's in the hospital bed going live every day, and he's a trooper. But I just couldn't understand. It's just hard to imagine scheduling your own death. I mean, just the thought of that is it's numbing. Being able to schedule your own mortality, like your last day on earth. And we don't know what happens on the other side. I mean, we hope we go somewhere better. We don't know if you could be reincarnated. We don't know what happens once you leave this world. But to do it voluntarily when you were given the gift of life, knowing that you can do things to stay here longer. I mean, life is precious. Your life is precious. That's why certain people in certain communities I can't rock or deal with, because they don't value life. They don't appreciate life. They take it for granted and they show it. They're all about death and murder. A lot of these people they're maniacs. Any doctors that are willing to assist you in dying and you're a young person with a treatable condition, instead of them petitioning so that these insurance companies will pay for your, treatment or keep you alive, they're now assisting you in dying, which is completely in opposite direction. I mean, this is completely against the Hippocratic oath. I don't even think this should be a thing, but here it is in the United States. And it's crazy because under these laws, doctors can prescribe life-ending medication to patients diagnosed with terminally and typically with a 6 months prognosis. So if you're terminally ill and you're going to die within 6 months because it's going to be spreading out your body, then yeah, they can prescribe it, but that's only now. They'll be able to prescribe more later. And then supporters argue that this is about dignity and personal choice, but critics like me warn that this issue has incentives. They're basically making money off of your death because they're saving money off of euthanizing you, because if you have insurance or if you have any coverage, they don't have to pay out. So they can keep all the money you've paid into the system and they don't have to pay out. So those incentives means that your death is a reflection of their greed. That's a problem. The key concern is not even legality for me, it's economics. In a system where insurers can deny expensive or experimental treatment, but approve end-of-life drugs that cost less, the question becomes unavoidable. Is this about compassion or is this about cost control? Think about it. They have experimental new treatments they could try on people. But instead of paying for that, they'll pay just to kill you, because the money's not in the cure, the money's in the medicine. And if they think that there's cures on the horizon, wouldn't it be easier and wouldn't they make more money if they just charge you a little bit extra and kill you? Because they're going to make nothing if you're cured. This is sad.
Jordan Paul deleted her.
Hi.
Once death becomes cheaper than care, choice can quietly turn into pressure, especially for the elderly, disabled, or chronically ill. Imagine people suggesting that you die because you're older. Imagine people offering you death because you're disabled or you have a handicap. You're already terminally ill and you're trying to enjoy your last time on earth, and they're offering to make it shorter for you. Do you see how evil and demonic this is? What began as an exception is now embedded in parts of the American healthcare system, both public and private. It used to be an exception. I remember there was a doctor a long time ago named Dr. Kevorkian, and I remember he was assisting people that were chronically ill but wanted to end their lives. And he was creating a cocktail for them to drink, and he was helping them commit suicide. But he was an extremely controversial doctor. I remember they tried to prosecute him. And now look, 15, 20 years later, it's literally the law of the land. Let's see if we can find him. Let's see if we can find something on Dr. Kevorkian. Yeah, the right to die. See, they called him the angel of death.
What are your feelings on assisted suicide? Dr. Jack Kevorkian brought this topic to the nation's attention.
Now, this is 11 years ago.
Dr. Kevorkian has helped 20 desperate people end their lives.
I want to take my life.
Not one of my patients feared death at all, not a touch of fear. They welcomed it.
Jack Kevorkian was born in Pontiac, Michigan on May 26, 1928. He grew up with very strict religious parents. His family went to church regularly, but Jack had trouble reconciling what he believed were conflicting religious ideas. He stopped attending church when he was 12 years old.
Janet Atkins is 54. She has Alzheimer's, an incurable disease that is eroding her memory and will eventually destroy her mind.
Kevorkian became infamous in 1990 when he assisted in the suicide of Janet Atkins, a 45-year-old Alzheimer's patient from Michigan. Janet heard about Jack Kevorkian and his invention of a suicide machine in one of his ads in the paper.
It carried a saline solution, a narcotic to put the patient out, and a lethal dose of potassium chloride.
Atkins administered her own painkiller and then the poison. Within 5 minutes, Atkins died of heart failure. When news hit media outlets, Kevorkian became a national celebrity and criminal. In 1991, a Michigan judge issued an injunction. Jack's actions brought up national debate on the ethics of euthanasia and hospice care. Dr. Deaths sparked an increased talk on hospice care and the right to die legislative action.
So I was right. He was actually arrested for assisting people in death. This is only in 1991. This is in our lifetimes. Yeah, Living Color was on TV, and the Cowboys won the Super Bowl like right after that, but that wasn't extremely long ago. What, 30 years? That's not that bad. And now it's the law of the land. Now they're serving up cocktails to people in 12 states legally. You could just go in and request it. And who's to say you got to be terminal? What if you just say you're terminal, but you're just depressed, or you're just mentally ill and you are going through a spell in your life? People go through ups and downs. Now, there are people that are exceptions. If you're in pain because of a condition where it's spreading and you're hurting, I can understand that. And if there's no such treatment that can treat you, but if there's anything that can be done to mitigate the pain, to extend your life, life is precious. But as a human, as an adult, you can make your own decisions what you want to do. But I mean, whether I agree with it or not, I have to respect it. But I can't believe he was prosecuted and Dr. Kevorkian was the first person in the country to do it. And now it's the law of the land 30 years later.
Brittany Maynard is the most recent assisted suicide case. Brittany Maynard, originally from California, moved to Oregon for their Death with Dignity law. She was diagnosed with brain cancer on New Year's Day and was told she had 6 months to live. She chose to live each day to the fullest, traveled, and kept as physically active as possible. Brittany suffered increasingly frequent and long seizures, intense head and neck pain, and stroke-like symptoms. She believes strongly in the ethics of the Death with Dignity Act, a basic healthcare and human right. The Death with Dignity laws are voluntary. An eligible person can request a prescription, but no doctor is obligated to provide it.
And now this is the law. I mean, they literally tried to hang this guy, and now this is normal. This is the norm.
Anderson Cooper, AC 360.
Thing that's going to hurt their income or their reputation, anything that possible, any legal thing that's going to possibly be damaging.
I mean, do you have nightmares about it? Did you ever feel?
No. I don't think a doctor should have a nightmare about any medical procedure, or else he's not a doctor.
Did you find it sad?
Well, of course. You don't like to end a life. Look, if somebody's got a cancer of the bone, of the hip, you don't take the leg off at the joint, in the hip joint, because you want to do it. I says, I'm going to take that leg off. I can't wait to take that leg off. No. The leg has to come off to help save the patient's life. Unfortunately, it entails the loss of a leg.
But a lot of people, as you know, I mean, say, look, you're playing God. That shouldn't.
Well, isn't the doctor who takes a leg off playing God?
You're saying doctors play God all the time.
Of course. Anytime you interfere with a natural process, you're playing God. God determines what happens naturally. That means that when a person's ill, he shouldn't go to a doctor because he's asking for interference with God's will.
That is, I'll be honest, he makes a really strong point, and his logic is sound, but I disagree with it because, I mean, I had a toothache and I went to the dentist. If if God's will was for me to just play it out naturally, I would have just suffered with a hurt tooth. And I don't know if you guys have ever had tooth pain, but it hurts like hell. And I think God gave us minds and wanted us to be great and capable of so much. And it's a disservice to God because we're not acting to the best of our abilities if we reject the knowledge that we're able to attain because of the brains and the capacity to learn that was granted to us at birth. So I can understand both sides, but I can understand Kevorkian's side as well. I just think this should be reserved for the worst of the worst cases. And those worst of the worst cases were they used to be extremely rare, but now with the jab and all these other conditions that are going on, these gender affirmation, there's a lot of diseases that are being spread and that are terminal, and they are putting people in a lot of pain. And I know pain is extremely hard to manage. Nobody wants to be in pain. And people do drugs every day just to manage pain. They say the average American takes like at least 7 or 9 different medications per day. I don't take any, but there's a lot of people that have a lot of physical and mental issues, and they have to stay medicated because of pain management. And if that becomes too unbearable, then yeah, taking your own life with medical assistance and suicide, it's an option. But I mean, I just think that's something that would have to be, you would have to be literally at rock bottom and beyond any treatment or any help. But if there's a chance that you can be treated and your life extended, I mean, knowing that you're going to just give that up, it's hard to reconcile with, even though you have a choice. And this interview is from 2010. So this is before because he passed away. This is before he passed.
But of course, patients can't think that way. They want to live as long as possible and not suffer. So they call a doctor to help them end the suffering.
Are you a religious man?
No.
Do you believe in God?
I don't know. Is there a God? Look, I'm a scientist. A doctor is always a scientist.
Do you fear death?
Well, as much as anybody else. I fear it only because I like living so much because I feel good.
If you were ill, if you had a terminal illness and were in pain, would you take your own life?
If it was unending pain and there's no cure, of course. I'm doing this for me. See, it's my natural right. That's in the Constitution, in the 9th Amendment, which is ignored. I have a natural right to do whatever I want with my body, anything, as long as it doesn't affect anybody else or any other property, and I give myself permission to do it. That's true of anything. I help a patient only with his permission to do what I think is necessary, and it's all laid out in detail to the patient.
Do you think
I think this interview changed everything. The point he just made about this being the 9th Amendment, this being in the Constitution, where he has to give himself permission as long as he's not hurting anybody or hurting anyone else's property, then he has a right to do what he wants to do with his own body and his own person. That makes sense. And you never hear about anybody attempting to ratify the 9th Amendment. They're not attempting to change it. And it is often ignored. Man, Kevorkian is making some really good points. And I think that's how this was the beginning of this push for medical assistance in dying being acceptable in the United States was after this interview.
Had an impact? Do you think you've been successful?
I think this film may have an impact because it's very emotional and very powerful. But it helps the issue, and that's what counts. Whether it helps me or not is irrelevant. And I like that because it helps the issue.
You use different ways of ending people's lives.
Yes.
At first, what did you?
Oh, so I wonder how much time he spent in prison. Jesus.
I had to devise a way to do it. The patient was quadriplegic who wanted a doctor to come and help him die. I says, look, I can help you, but it's illegal. So I've got to find a way to do it legally. And I'll get back in touch with you. And in the meantime, I was working on a way to do it.
So you basically just came up with an idea in your mind to make a machine
that would save me from having to do it. So
that would allow the person to actually end their own life.
I would set up the machines, all the solutions and everything in the intravenous line, and then the patient would hit a switch and started everything flowing.
Later on, you started using a gas.
Yeah, because they took away my license for the controlled substance.
So you couldn't get access to...
So they made it harder for me.
So what he's saying is that he used to assist people in dying, and then they basically made that illegal. It was illegal. So what he had to do was come up with a machine where he would set up the substances and he would put like a device together, and the person could just hit the switch on themselves and give themselves a lethal injection. That was his workaround. Rather brilliant. So people chose to do that. Then they took away his medical license so that he wouldn't be able to access the potassium chloride and the other and the other saline, the different solutions that he needed to make his cocktail. They barred him from, because you have to have a medical license to have access to those chemicals, and they took those away so he wouldn't have access. So he found a workaround for that so he could still help people kill themselves by using gas. And that's where we are right now.
And harder for the patient. But that didn't bother them. See, they don't care about the patient suffering. See,
so you actually, so what, you would put something over their head and give them a gas?
No, we.
So he said that they said because when I came up with a gas solution, it makes it harder and it takes longer for them to die. But they're not worried about the patient suffering. I guess they were just worried about controlling him or what he does, or controlling his techniques. What was their part? If they didn't care about how the patient dies or how comfortable the patient is, what was I guess the people that were prosecuting him, what was their primary concern? Because people they're dying with gas and it's harder on them and they're in more pain. But I don't know. That's kind of wild.
He first tried one case with a thing I devised over the head of a plastic that's you could see through, transparent.
Right.
But the patient panicked and said, "Stop it." So I stopped it. We stopped it. And I says, "Why don't we try this another day?" He said, "No, do it now." He was determined to end it. He had severe emphysema. And that helps the panic. When you breathe and you have trouble breathing, when you're breathing carbon monoxide gas. When you have carbon monoxide poisoning at night, when you're asleep, it doesn't wake you up. You die. In other words, it's not so disturbing that it would wake you up. Therefore, it can't be too disturbing when you take it. Oh, wait.
And the final patient, Tom.
When you talk about carbon monoxide poisoning when you sleep, not too long ago, there were no such thing as electric cars. So people would, if you live in the Midwest or on the East Coast when it's cold, some people will go and turn on their car to warm it up. And this was a common problem before. And when they're turning their engine on to let their car warm up, they would fill the garage with carbon monoxide from your exhaust of your car. And what if you go back in the house and you fall asleep? Now everyone in the house will fall asleep and they'll never wake up. And that happens a lot. People have fallen asleep in their car and passed away with their kids in the car. It used to be a really big issue. It doesn't happen as frequently anymore that I've noticed, but carbon monoxide poisoning, that's why we have smoke detectors, but your house also has a carbon monoxide detector as well. That's how common carbon monoxide poisoning was. So what he was saying was that since you don't wake up when you're dying from carbon monoxide poisoning, then obviously it's painless, or you would be alerted that it's happening. So that's actually a more effective way of killing someone quickly and painless. So he kind of figured that out. I don't think anybody's ever studied publicly how to kill people as efficiently as this man, Dr. Kevorkian.
Yeah. That case was different. You actually injected him.
That's right.
Yourself.
That's right.
You actually injected him because you wanted to go to court.
I wanted to bring the case so that I get standing. They can't say they didn't get the particularized case they wanted.
And you thought it would go to the Supreme Court, and that basically this would change the law.
I hope this going to get. I doubt it though, because I knew the court's corrupt.
I want to just show a little video that you made prior to the injection.
Well, he was wrong, because 15 years later, you can get killed and they can prescribe death to you.
to inject. We're going to inject in your right arm. Okay? Tom? You asleep? He's asleep.
When you see that, what do you think?
That the law has forced me to do this in the most undignified way.
You think it's undignified?
Of course it is. There's no family there. We're alone, two of us. I can't risk anybody else's life.
You had told his family that they should leave.
You must not be there because they'll try to prosecute you as an accomplice or something. You don't know because they're cruel. The law is cruel. They don't care about the patient. They care about the letter of the law.
Bond is set for $50,000. You going to pay that today?
Oh, that is beyond egregious, Your Honor.
There is no way I'm going to pay a bond like that, Your Honor. You can forget it. You can forget it. Because this is the last time you people unjustly take away from me my liberty.
I need a moment of my time, Your Honor.
And I will not, hear me now, I will not eat. Guarantee.
I apologize
You are
for my
assisting
time,
in
Your
my
Honor.
suicide.
You're off parole now, right?
Oh, yeah. I have only 2 years after I got out of prison.
So you're a free man.
Yeah.
Would you do it again? Would you help somebody?
Under certain circumstances, yes. As long as I know they're not going to throw me in jail again and prison me. Yeah, I would do it again.
Have you had people approach you for help to end their life?
They approached me even. I got letters from them even when I was in prison. They wanted help. They wanted advice how to do it. I couldn't do that in prison.
Can you give advice to people now?
Not in parole. It stopped. With parole ending, I could give any advice I want.
So now you could give advice.
Absolutely. I can. Notice I'm talking very freely about it.
And are you in touch with people who want to end
Not
their life?
right now. No. They all assume, like the judge says, you have now been stopped.
I did not know this. Fun fact: Dr. Kevorkian spent 8 years and 8 months in jail for helping people with assisted suicides. And literally 15 years later, quietly, they have legalized assisted suicides right here in America and in some of the same states that prosecuted him. He was prosecuted in Michigan. Let me see here. Was Michigan on the list of states? No. Again, it's Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Hawaii, Vermont, New Mexico, New Jersey, Maine, Montana, Washington, D.C. So not Michigan. 8 years and 8 months because people were asking you to help them die, and people are writing him in jail, asking him for help. There's more people in pain than I know of.
Well, she was wrong. I haven't.
You haven't been stopped?
No, of course not. I still push for this issue, and when a chance comes, I'll do it the way it should be done.
What do you mean? You will help someone else end their life?
Yeah, because you have it in 3 states, so-called.
Oregon, Washington.
That's not done right. That's not a medical service. A doctor can't be involved. Illegal. He'll be punished. AMA says you'll lose your license. Scares the hell out of me.
So will you build another machine?
I don't need a machine. A doctor can do the injecting. The machine was just to avoid being charged with having committed the crime.
But you don't have access to the pharmaceuticals anymore, do you?
Not yet. But if it were illegal, in other words, if the law stepped out of the picture, if religion stopped pushing this opposition, then we could do it like a regular medical procedure, which it should be.
Interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree or you disagree with medical assisted suicide.
60 minutes rewind.
Let me know if you agree with medical assistance in suicide and in death suicide. Do you believe that people should have the right to choose when they want to die for whatever reason, whether it's depression, whether it's because you hate Mondays, or because you're terminally ill, or should you be forced by the law to stay alive and you don't have the option to take your own life? Because I do believe that suicide is illegal on the books. I do believe suicide is illegal. So if you try to kill yourself, that's a crime, which sounds insane. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll go ahead and post this video because I'm live right now, but I'll post this video in a few hours. I just think this is interesting. But the initial guy from the first video, seeing that he's going through this because his insurance company denied paying for his coverage for his treatment, but they approved paying for him to die. I think that's wrong. I think that's absolutely wrong. I think that's greedy, and I think that's corrupt. And I just don't think it's a subject anyone's really talking about, but it should be definitely visited again. Like and subscribe, share the video. The Single Boyfriend on YouTube or Right Wing Rico. I'll be back on live in about 20 minutes with another topic. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.